This is the Horse Radio Network. This is episode 409 of Horse Tip Daily, a different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you one day at a time. Today's tip is sponsored by Equestrian Collections. For the entire universe of equestrian shopping at your fingertips at a price you can afford. Well, howdy, everybody, and welcome back to Horse Tip Daily. I am Glenn the Geek from Lexington, Kentucky. And today we have back with us Dr. Tanya Cubitt. She's a native of Queensland, Australia, and she's been on with us many times before talking about nutrition and things healthy for your horses. She has a Master of Science and Doctor of Philosophy degrees in equine nutrition and reproduction at Virginia Tech, she was. And she, of course, is a regular contributor to the Jumping Radio Show. This tip is taken off of Jumping Radio Show episode number 52. Hope you enjoy this tip, and it'll be right here after this word from Equestrian Collections. Equestrian Collections brings the whole universe of equestrian shopping to your fingertips at a price you can afford. You normally think of Equestrian Collections when it's time for a new wardrobe. Well, there is so much more than just a clothing provider. Equestrian Collections also carries a complete line of spring grooming tools, including Oster clippers, brushes, shampoos, rain and fly sheets, and so much more. The next time you need to buy anything for your horse or for you, type in equestriancollections.com first and check out the vast selection and terrific prices.
Well, we talked last time about feeding fat, and I think this time you're going to take this to the next step and talk about the omega-3 and 6 fatty acids that we need to consider in our diet.
I am. I think there's been a lot of question over the last few years about omega-3 versus omega-6 fatty acids and what's good and what's not good and what contains them, etc. Adverts have really focused on the use of omega-3 supplements for horses. Usually flaxseed meal is very high, different types of vegetable oil or fish oil. Studies in humans have found many health benefits from the supplementation of omega-3 fatty acids in human diets. We still, while research benefits for horses have not, we have really not done as much research. There certainly has been some potential benefits shown from feeding omega-3 fatty acids to horses. Now, the way I kind of explain omega-3 versus omega-6 fatty acids, anytime you hear the word essential in front of a nutrient, it means that you need to feed it to the animal or to yourself, that your body can't actually make it. So both omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids are essential. Both of them are very important. But it's their role, and some fats have higher amounts of the omega-6 fatty acids versus the 3, and we know that omega-3 fatty acids have more anti-inflammatory properties, so we like to see a little higher amounts of those than we had in the past. Now, fats serve as carriers for fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin D, E, and K. And in these fats, like I said, we supply these essential fatty acids. You may see the term linoleic acid, which is omega-6 fatty acids, and alpha-linolenic acid. Now, that's getting pretty scientific for you, but you may see those words, that alpha-linolenic acid is omega-3 fatty acids. And like I said, these can't be synthesized by the body. The omega-3 fatty acids control the inflammatory response in the body, and we've shown them to have positive health benefits. And I won't say that omega-6 fatty acids cause inflammation or inflammatory properties, but we talk about them as a pro-inflammatory marker, and I kind of look at it like when a bee stings you and you get that red welt to get rid of that stinger, you really need to have that pro-inflammatory response. But in our horse feeds, we're really trying to get more of those omega-3 fatty acids so that we can, as our horses are exercising, we know that exercise causes the body to be in more of an inflamed state. So perhaps for the pasture ornament horse that really doesn't do a lot except, keep us happy because we get to go out and feed him every day, the balance of omega-3 versus omega-6 fatty acids isn't as crucial as, say, for an elite level endurance horse or a jumper or a Western cutting horse that are exercising a lot, and we do know that they're in that kind of inflamed state. Also with joint issues, I always try and feed a higher omega-3 fatty acid type supplement or feed. We really don't have the exact requirements for these essential fatty acids, and nor even the exact ratio. That hasn't been established. So we're really going on a lot of human research, and really that's all we can go on. And yet there is a lot of research that's been done down in Florida looking at the different relationships, but to date we don't have exact requirements. Other research, equine research, has actually looked at omega-3 supplementation on in breeding stallions and semen quality and its ability to come back from being chilled or frozen. Feeding high amounts of omega-3 fatty acids has been shown to increase the sperm motility, etc. Not as important for your jumping horse, but that's just a little side. And also improving milk composition, feeding omega-3s to pregnant mares with either flaxseed or fish oil really changed the fatty acid composition of the milk, just another little side. Cereal grains such as corn, oats, sunflowers and safflower, those kinds of grains contain much higher levels of, say, omega-6 fatty acids than the omega-3 fatty acids. Soybean oil, canola oil, even rice bran oil have higher amounts of omega-3s and are lower in omega-6s than something like a corn oil. I always say that flaxseed oil is the highest plant form of omega-3 fatty acids, followed closely, well, not that closely, but canola, soybean oil, and then down rice bran oil, kind of in that order. That's why I generally recommend a soybean oil. Flaxseed oil can be quite expensive, and if you're feeding large amounts of it, palatability becomes decreased. But if you're really looking for that anti-inflammatory property, then flaxseed oil. So fish oil is really the highest and better quality omega-3 fatty acid, but it's very difficult to get horses to eat large amounts of fish oil. It's, doesn't have the greatest flavor or smell, and but the companies developing these products have overcome that. I say they add de-stinkers and they add a lot of flavoring to the products, which can make them a little bit more costly. But if we're really looking for high amounts of omega-3s, those products are on the market. So absolutely critical that your horse gets both omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, especially if your horse is exercising heavily. Even I found with horses that get a lot of hives, this was just some cases that I worked with some Morgans that were getting a lot of hives and had skin allergies, and we put them on a diet of high amounts of omega-3. I think we had them on a high flaxseed supplement and also vitamin E, and that really seemed to help with that kind of inflammatory response. The whole body was in this kind of inflamed state because of these hives. We didn't really work out what was causing them, but we were certainly able to decrease the risk. Now, as I said, they're both really important, and I have read some lay literature that really freaked people out about omega-6 fatty acids. They will not make your horse inflame in front of your eyes. They certainly won't cause your horse to have more inflammation. But what we want to try and do is increase the amount of omega-3 fatty acids in our diet. Don't forget about omega-6s because they're both essential. The horse absolutely needs both of them. So that's really what I'd leave the listeners with. They're both very important, but if you have that highly exercising horse or a horse that is in somewhat of an inflammatory state or has joint issues, then feeding a supplement or a feed that has higher amounts of omega-3 fatty acids. So we'd be looking at ingredients like flaxseed oil, soybean meal, or even looking at a fish oil supplement as being the best for increasing the omega-3 content of the horse's diet. This is an ongoing research field, and hopefully in the future we'll have more and more research, but as of yet, there are no actual requirements and no established ratio for omega-3 versus omega-6 fatty acids, which is kind of working on human research, but they're both absolutely critical.
Wonderful. All right. Well, good advice as always in our nutritional tips with Dr. Tanya Cubitt. Thank you so much, and we'll see you back around in a couple of weeks' time. I'm sure you've got some more ideas up your sleeve. You're never short of ideas for these tips, Tanya.
No, I have lots of different ideas. I travel a lot, and I constantly ask different things, different questions by different people, and there are some common threads. I think next time we'll talk about feeding the senior horse. There is a lot of controversy over feeding the senior horse, and I have some tips for actually determining if your horse is even senior, because just because he's gray or 20 years old may not necessarily mean he is nutritionally senior. So that's what we'll talk about next time.
That's a good point. Just before you go, I wanted to picking up on the oils you were talking about just then. You know, something that I've fed my dogs since the day they were born is a squirt of flaxseed oil in their evening feed.
Perfect.
They've had this since literally all their lives, and just cover they love it too. But it's good not only, and everyone comments on how good their coats look. Of course, it's good for their coats. It's good for their joints, isn't it?
It certainly is. Yep. I have a lot of people that have horses that also squirt the horse oil into their dog food, just as you suggested, and it helps with coat, helps with skin condition, especially in this cold weather where our skin is really dry, but it also helps with joint problems and inflammation in the joints, definitely.
I know, if only I could eat it myself. I just can't bring myself to eat those oils.
This is a horrible story, but I once got given a capsule. A vet wanted me to try a dog fish oil capsule, and he said it really doesn't taste bad at all. It's got a peppermint flavor, and it did have a peppermint flavor initially, but later it did not. So
it reminds me when I was growing up back in England, my parents always made us have cod liver oil as kids, and it is about as disgusting a taste as you could. I know they since, in those days, this was after the war. I'm sorry, I'm giving my age away now, but of course, it was the liquid form. And you'd have these, I can see these bottles now of cod liver oil, and I'm sure they had the best interest and health at heart. But, of course,
just the feeling of that sliding down your throat.
Yeah, but of course, subsequently, they have come up with these tablet forms, the capsules, which I'm sure are far more palatable. But in those days, we didn't have those choices, and they were pretty awful. But on that note, I appreciate your advice on oils. They are essential to us.
They certainly are.
All right, Tanya, look forward to catching up with you next time. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Well, thank you to Chris and to Dr. Tanya Cubitt for providing those nutrition tips here every other week or so. We appreciate allowing us to be able to use them here on Horse Tip Daily. And, of course, you can listen to the rest of that episode. That's episode number 52 of the Jumping Radio Show, where she talked about the importance of horsemanship with BZ Madden and Kara Rather, and you can find that at jumpingradio.com, episode number 52. Well, we'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, stay safe, everyone.
The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.